When I learn something important, I then teach it. I find an area of my life where I need to improve, and then I go and I study it. I create success for myself in that area. And then I go and I help others, whether it's helping my friends one-on-one, whether it's coaching. A lot of the time I create courses, or training programs on it, or I create like a teaching group or a mastermind. And the key here is that when I teach it, what this does is it forces me to then organize what I've learned in a new way, to take everything I learned about that area and simplify it, and then make a model that I can show to others so they can do it. And it's in that process of then learning, going through trial and error, failing, going through all the challenges that we go through when we're learning a new thing, then figuring it out, okay, and creating consistent success in my life, and then coming back and challenging myself to reorganize my knowledge and teach it. That's the key piece. It's to learn it and then to teach it. Because what happens when you learn something and then you teach it is that you get to that simplicity on the far side of complexity. You build a model that you then have in your head that you can think with and you can work with. And then when you have the model and the simple, you make a diagram or some action steps or exercises, then here's the key. It allows you to connect it up to the rest of the knowledge that you have. It allows you to combine it with your other models and then make new models. All right? Because once you learn, for example, let's say that you learn about how to coach, okay, and you get good at coaching, and then you organize your coaching knowledge into a structure that you teach others. So you say, okay, here's what coaching means to me. Here are the action steps that I take as a coach. And then you go and learn marketing. And you develop the ability to get clients through advertising, marketing, branding. And then you go and you teach some marketing. So you explain, okay, here's my system, and you reorganize what you know into some simple action steps. Well, now in your head, you know the formula, okay? You've got the secret code to coaching, and you know the formula. You've got the secret code to marketing and getting customers. Well, now you can put them together. And now you can teach coaching to marketers and marketing to coaches, and you can teach coach marketing and marketing coaching. Now you've got like the superpower because you are one of the only people that can do that thing. And it doesn't matter what the things are. Okay. If you're a great chef, you really know how to cook, and you're really, really good at productivity, right? If you go and you organize that knowledge and you teach both of those things, then you have two models you put together. Now you can be an organized, productive chef, right? Or you can kind of be a chef of organization. And this is part of the process of developing and finding your own unique genius and creating value in a unique way in the world. So that's my discovery. I mean, and in a way, like, that's it. We could be finished right here. And if you just go and do that, you're going to get your money's worth out of today and what we're doing here. Okay. But we're not going to stop there, because what we're going to do today is I'm going to take the two of them that I've learned that I think are the most important ones that I'm doing this with right now. And we're going to do them together. And you're going to see me kind of demonstrating this, because we're going to put together coaching plus generative AI. There's something you should know about me, because you may not know me. First of all, my name's Eben. I'm Eben Pagan. And I stand here before you. I'm pretty confident in my coaching ability, and I'm pretty confident in my use of generative AI and my prompting abilities. So it can look to you like, oh, well, whatever, he's lucky, he just understands these things. But I actually want to tell you a story. And the story is that I was born to these wacky and amazing hippie parents. I was born in 1970. And my parents were hippies back in the 60s, like using psychedelics and dropping out. And they moved with me to Oregon when I was 2 or 3 years old. So I grew up literally in the backwoods of Oregon with these hippie New York parents, if you can imagine this, who had this strange accent and so forth. So I grew up and we were completely broke. I mean, my parents really never figured out the kind of life and work world, right? My dad was, on government assistance and, so forth his entire life. My mom had jobs once in a while. They went to school and they tried to educate themselves and they tried to make sure that, I had enough, but we were always struggling for money. I grew up in a little house, like literally out in the woods. The water would go out all the time. We had a spring that would, come down. I didn't have new clothes. I didn't have my first pair of new clothes or shoes until I was probably, I don't know, like 15 or something like this. I drove a lot of $200 cars and so forth growing up. So I was a long-haired rock and roll guitar player. I dropped out of the education system. We'll have to see. I had to go to kindergarten twice. Okay. I went twice to kindergarten. I dropped out of high school. Okay. When I was 16, I went and got an equivalency and I went on to a local community college. And then when I was 18, I dropped out of my community college to go on tour with a rock band. And I never went back. Okay. So that's my education career right there. And then after making, a height of $10 an hour doing my manual labor work, and the peak I hit as a musician was making $75 a week as a guitar player. In my 20s, I just said, well, I've got to figure this out. I need to go figure out success because, I lived in a little trailer. I could barely make ends meet and so forth. And so I went and got a real estate license and thinking, well, looks like rich people have real estate and, or invest in it. So I'll get a real estate license and see what that's all about. Now you can imagine me at 22 years old with a long hair and a ponytail driving a 2-door Camaro. Anyone remember those Camaros from, back in the 80s? Yeah. Okay. Well, I had one of those. And as you can imagine, not a lot of affluent clients wanted to jump in a Camaro with a long-haired rock and roll guitar 22-year-old and, go buy $1 million houses or anything. My first year in real estate, I sold 1 1/3 homes. The one that I sold was for $59,900 and I made like $1,800 or something. I think I sold the lowest priced home in the multiple listing service in Eugene, Oregon, where I was at. And then my broker felt bad for me. So she gave me like another third of a home sale. She let me help her with some open houses or something, right? And I made like a few $1,000s my whole first year. I made less in real estate than I was making in my manual labor job. And after grinding and so forth, I got to figure this out, Now, fortunately, I'm persistent. Okay, that's one thing that I am, is I'm persistent. So I said, I got to go, learn sales and marketing. And I went to seminars. I tried out everything. I would buy these books of ads and different things that were, for me, extremely expensive back then. I tried doing for sale by owners, and I tried doing flyers and knocking on people's doors. And I tried running ads and, sending out postcards. And all these things, they were extremely time and labor expensive for me. And you know what? Literally none of them worked for me. Like nothing, none of that stuff that I tried. None of the ads worked. None of the knocking on the doors. One day, I remember one fateful day in my life, I had been listening to some audio tapes by Tom Ferry. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Tom Ferry before, but he was an old sales trainer. And he said in there that if you make 50 cold calls a day, okay, if you just pick up the phone and you call 50 people you don't know and ask them if they want to buy or sell a house, that one of them will say yes. And I thought, well, that's not too bad, because if one says yes, I'll make maybe $5,000 as a commission or something. Like, okay, I'll try it. So I remember the fateful day. I sat down at my desk. I remember I was on the second floor in the little real estate office where I worked. And I made a list of all the people that lived in a particular area that lived in nice homes. And I made made this list, and I had my phone next to me. And I remember sitting there and I got all ready. I had my script. I was going to call people up and I was going to ask them if they wanted to buy or sell a house. And I looked at the phone and I looked at my list and I just started feeling sick. I just started feeling this foreboding, horrible feeling. And I looked at my phone and I looked at the list and I just got more nervous and more sick. And I just kept looking back and forth until finally I got so upset that I went and got in my car, drove home to my little trailer and went to sleep. on my couch. It was in the middle of the day. And I felt so defeated. I just felt so terrible about myself. And it was a low point for me. But in a way, it was also the starting point, because from there, I went on and I said, I'm going to figure this out. And I did. And I remember learning about a new kind of marketing called direct response marketing. And I started doing it and started getting lots of calls from clients. And then I started working with other top real estate agents and teaching them how to do this stuff. And that led to me moving out of my little trailer home and finally getting a nice apartment and a nice car. And I moved to California, and I finally lived near the beach, where I had always fantasized about living near the beach. But then I ran into another challenge, which was I couldn't get a date. Now, I had grown up, I had had a couple of girlfriends, but when I was young as a kid, I never had a girlfriend. Like, no girls would talk to me. I never got notes from girls. I never had a girlfriend in any of my school. Like, I literally made it all the way through school and I graduated. Well, I dropped out after never having a girlfriend. That might be one of the reasons why I dropped out. But, so here I am now. I'm in my later 20s. I'm like 26 or 27. I'm living in California. I've finally got a nice car, and I live by the beach, and I still can't get a date. And I'm horrified of women. I mean, just absolutely terrified. And so I say, okay, now I got to go learn this thing, and I got to figure this out. And so I started reading books and going to seminars and trying whatever was on the internet, stupid pickup lines or whatever. But I was just willing to try, anything. And finally, I made friends with some different guys. My next door neighbor where I lived, he was this stockbroker named Greg. And he's, still a friend. And Greg showed me, he looked at me and he was just like, basically like, you're a loser and you need to learn about this. What are you doing? And I made a bunch of other friends, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they showed me, this whole world of like flirting and chemistry and attraction. And when I learned about this, right, the biggest revelation for me there, by the way, I mean, we're kind of getting a little off track here, but the biggest revelation there when I was learning about dating and attraction and, and mating, was that none of the things that I had thought or been taught or any of the conventional wisdom, none of that stuff was true. Everything that I was trying to do, be a really nice guy and be friendly and all that stuff, and like try to like impress a girl by buying her flowers, and none of that stuff was actually what turned out to work. What actually worked was being funny and teasing and having chemistry, and like it's a whole different set of things that I would not have stumbled upon in a million years if I had not gone and like actually learned how to do it. The end of that story, though, is that once I kind of figured it out and I started getting dates, I got this amazing girlfriend. I moved to Los Angeles. Some of my friends started saying like, Eben, what are you doing here? You're like this transformed guy. You're able to like get dates. And so I started showing them. I remember one night, my friends were going out one night and I was sick. I had like a bad cold and I couldn't go out, and it was hot. And I like sat with a towel on my head, sick. And I said, well, I got to do something productive tonight. So I wrote up this report, like 10 pages of what I had learned about dating. And I started giving it to my friends, and they were coming back and they were saying, this is amazing. This is really helping me, And so I started coaching some of my friends, and then I wrote a book, and I used the pen name David D'Angelo because I thought that sounded kind of cool. And I wrote a book called Double Your Dating, and I put it online, and it took off and it became very successful. Why? Because I had learned about marketing. And then I went and learned about dating, and then I put them together. And then that became my first real success. And then that created a whole string of successes where I would go and study something like how to build a business, or how to be productive, or how to do coaching. And I would study an area for a few years, and then I'd teach it, create a course on it, and on and on. And this has led to the point where now I have a very successful company. We do multi-millions of dollars a year. I have an amazing team of the coolest people in the world that I get to work with every day. And I get to do stuff like this, which is hang out with you and learn about coaching and generative intelligence and so forth. So I tell you that story because, again, if you don't know me, or maybe you've just met me, or maybe you don't know my story, I want you to know that it hasn't always been this way. Okay, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I wasn't born with a silver prompt on my fingertips. I've learned all of the things that you're seeing here, and you can learn them too. But most importantly, when you learn the ones that are right for your personality, for your archetype, for your unique gifts and genius, when you learn that set of skills and you put those together, and then you combine them with things like coaching and generative intelligence, it can just have such a powerful transformational effect on your life and your career. And maybe even more importantly, it can help you to impact the lives of other people and people that you care about. So coaching and teaching, they've just changed my life. Okay, they've changed my wife's life. Annie, she's a coach. She's an even better coach than me. It's changed the life of my family. It's changed our lifestyle, right? I get to help people and teach people as my work. How great is that? I mean, who could have imagined that this was possible and that one could do this? And then again, it's the choice that I have. It's the choices that are important to me. Right now, I am working more than I have ever worked. I am just working harder than I've ever worked. I wake up, I sometimes have meetings. I usually have meetings starting at like 6:30 a.m. Sometimes I'm working into the night. But I'm loving it because there's so much opportunity. But I have the choice. And there have been times in my life where I've wanted to have the choice to, go travel and live in other places, and again, I'm in great shape. I'm just feeling the best I can. And a lot of this is because I'm coaching, that's what I'm doing. I also want to encourage you that as we kind of go into this path here of joining and merging coaching with generative AI, I want to encourage you to take on success, okay, not just a little bit, but really take it on. Really become not just a student of success, but almost like a success scientist. The emergence over the past 10 to 20 years and the growth of personal development, of self-actualization, right? It's spreading so fast. We're all realizing, oh, I can learn how to be successful. I can learn how to actualize myself. This is what's leading to the growth of coaching, by the way, right? But the real, I think, the internal mindset shift, the decision that we have to make is we have to decide, I'm going to be a student of success. I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to research this, and I'm going to understand this thing, success, better than anybody. I'm going to understand what it takes to be successful in my health, in my relationships, in my business, in my money. And then I'm going to put them all together and I'm going to make a really successful life. And I'm going to teach others and I'm going to coach others. I'm a professional at being successful in different areas of life. And when you become like a student of success, a researcher, a scientist, it leads the way to actualization, to becoming like a scholar, because you understand the patterns. You have a wisdom. You have kind of success wisdom. I'm also fortunate enough to be old friends with many of the people in our world, the kind of OGs, people like Marie Forleo and Tony Robbins and Mary Morrissey and Brendon Burchard and many, many others. And I want to point something out to you that you may not have noticed. Okay, they all started out the same way. They may all be on these stages with, thousands or millions of people, but they all started out the same way. They all started out as coaches. Right? Coaching is the doorway. It's the first step to becoming a great teacher, or to do group programs or courses or masterminds, or if you want to build a community. All right. So the formula for accelerated success, okay, for accelerated growth and learning is teaching and learning. Okay. It's learning and teaching. Sometimes I combine those two words, teach, learn, into the word T-earn, right? It's teaching in order to learn at a higher level, and then connecting your knowledge and your skills.